Welcome to Cathedral Caverns, and this particular room is called the Cathedral Ring. Now, as a caver, you often come into a cave, you don't always know what's in front of you, particularly if you're some of the first humans to ever step into that cave. And in this case, when Jay Gurley and his buddies came through this part of the cave, they were the first humans to step in this part. Now, with that huge entrance that we've got, they got in here expecting a lot of wonderful formations and large rooms, but they never expected anything like this grandeur that's here. Now, this room is called the Cathedral Ring because this is where the name of the cave came from. It took several years before Jay Gurley finally convinced his wife to come into the cave, and when she came in here, one of the things that she commented on was right up there was a formation that looks like a church bell. And then she turned around and made the comment that these columns here reminded her of the columns in front of the old Gothic style churches, these big stone columns that you had to walk around to get inside the church. Then Jay turned around and he made a comment, another one of the formations reminded him of the pipe organs that you would see in those kind of churches. And once he said that, then his wife turned around and said, "This place is like a cathedral." Hence the name Cathedral Caverns. Now, originally this was called Bat Cave from way back time, even before the Civil War. But the number of bats inside the cave now is a whole lot less, so that name doesn't really apply very well as it once did a long time ago. Now, I want to go back and revisit and talk a little bit about all these formations here. As rainwater falls through the sky, again, it becomes a very, very weak acid that dissolves the limestone. And as that water reacts and filters through the limestone, then it picks up and dissolves little bits of it. And then when it hits this big open air passage like this, the water will evaporate and leave that little bit of dissolved limestone behind. And that's what creates these formations. And you gotta think about it in geological terms. That is, it's taken a very, very long time for these formations to be created. In some places we're talking about 75 years would only create that much of a formation. And now when you add to the size of these, then you're looking at tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years for them to be created. And these are still growing. That's another thing that is often a misconception, is that people tend to think that formations are either dead or alive. The alive ones they refer to are often ones that are wet, and that's not always the case. Think about a formation like this one that's been around for 50,000 years. Well, if it's dry for 100 years out of a lifespan of 50,000, that's nothing. That's just a few seconds in our time frame. And it's pretty much, and in geological terms, it is just a very short time. But just because it's dry this year doesn't mean in the next 100 years if the water won't come back to it and it starts growing again. So it's kind of more like a pause in time, that while a formation may be dry today, in another 50 years, it could be wet again and growing yet again all over. Now, we have a lot of different kinds of formations within this cave and in caves in general. One that tends to run along the edge we call draperies, and all that they tend to drip and create what looks like draperies around the windows, sometimes referred to as curtains as well. But even within them, there's got a few special ones that we refer to, and when you look at it is with the light behind it, it looks like bacon. And we have formation in here that has that exact look to it. We call it the bacon formation. Now, other kinds of formations that we have, of course, the most common ones, stalactites that hang from the ceiling and stalagmites that grow from the floor coming up. But we also have the columns where both the top and the bottom touch. And we have another kind called flowstone. In the case of flowstone, is that usually the water comes out from the side of the wall and just runs down the side of it and covers it, and it builds up over time. It doesn't get a chance to actually drip free like it does in this room. But in the case of rimstone dams, they build up around these flowstone formations as well, where water kind of builds up, and they'll actually create a ridge there where the formations are actually growing up because of the water damming up behind it. So they call those rimstone dams. So you have flowstone and rimstone dams that usually create both at the same time from the same water source. And in some cases, the flowstone can be huge. One of the formations that we have here, we refer to it as the frozen waterfall. It's over 40 feet long and about 30 feet high. And again, it's one huge flowstone formation. Now, there's some other kind of formations we want to talk about that you may run into as well. There's stalactite formations that grow in any direction that you may want to even think of, whatever. We really don't have a good explanation on how they happen, because these kind of obvious that they're all from dripping off the ceiling. But stalactites tend to grow horizontal, sideways, upways. They'll go in all sorts of directions. So we really don't have a good answer for how they are created. Besides the formations that we have here inside this one particular room, the cathedral room, we also have another segment of the cave that the public is not able to go into. While the forest here is fantastic and very awe-inspiring, believe it or not, there is still within this cave a second stalagmite forest that's more impressive by some people, but just as impressive as this room is. And we hope in a future video to take you into it. Now, one last thing in closing before we go is we got a whole series of pictures we want to show you of this room from various points of view and stuff. And then if you have any questions or anything else you would like to ask, and questions about the geology or the cave, please feel free to contact me on Randall Blackwood at dcnr.alabama, that's spelled out alabama.gov. So you can email me at that site, or you can go to our Facebook page, or you can go onto the website here for the park. So be safe and be careful out there. Thank you for watching.